Hello YouTube, Stillborn86 here with another gun-related video. Recently I posted a video on a bullet setback test that I did. It ended up being way too long for my tastes, and it didn't encompass all of the information that I wanted it to due to it being so long. I tried to edit it as much as possible, but I couldn't get it to become any shorter than about 47 minutes. So because of that, I'm making this video. Hopefully this will be a lot shorter. It'll contain all the information I want. And if anybody wanted to see the video, they can always click the annotation, or there's also a link in the description that I'll throw in there for the mobile users, so that you can actually watch the test, watch the legitimacy. I show you the progression physically of the bullet as it shortens up due to setback, as opposed to just giving you the information that I'll give you here. In this video, I will give you charts and graphs and data. I will show you the end result, but the first video gives you, again, a progress as opposed to just the end. That being said, this video is going to, of course, incorporate the data and the results. It's also going to incorporate reasoning and justification for why I believe that press checks are inherently better than the other forms of safety checking your weapon, and why safety checking your weapon is important. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into that information. I did use a box of Winchester, not a box. I used a few bullets from a box of Winchester white box 40 Smith & Wesson 165 grain full metal jacket rounds. I used them in my Glock 23. Yes, I used the Glock 23. I can already feel the hate, and in the first video I explained this. It's really a lose-lose situation for me. It doesn't matter which gun I used. I could have used a Glock, I could have used a Ruger, I could have used an FN, I could have used an HK. It didn't matter, because I was going to be some sort of fanboy. You know, he's a Colt 1911 fanboy. That's why he's using that, and he's trying to bash the XDS. That's not true. I have just about every brand that you can have in here. I even own a High Point, which is sad, but you know, that's neither here nor there. It didn't matter which gun I used. I was going to get hate for using a gun, and so I didn't want to do the video for a long time, but my XDS video kind of pushed my hand, and I ended up having to do it because I was tired of explaining setbacks so many times. I really wanted to use my XDS for the video, but sadly I don't have it. It's at Springfield Armory for their recall. It's been there for about 3 months, and there's no ETA on when it's coming back, if it's even coming back. I don't know. So there's that. Another reason I use my Glock 23 is because it shoots the 40 Smith & Wesson. It has a flat nose, as you can see, as opposed to the 45 and the 9mm that have rounded noses. And that gives me the advantage of having something to measure from front to back consistently with a pair of calipers. The rounded nose makes that a little more difficult. The flat nose gives me something better to grip and measure. That being said, let's jump into reasoning. What I did, the reason that I did the video, the reason that I do press checks, is because people give me a lot of heartache about press checks. They say that people who do press checks are wannabe SWAT. I've even had people tell me that I'm dangerous for doing press checks because all I want to do is play with my gun and show it off, and you know, I should just put it away. And I'll be the first to admit that there are people out there like that feel like press checks give them a tactical advantage, but that's not why I do them. And over the course of this video, I'm going to explain why I do them, and hopefully justify doing a press check over every other form of safety checking. On that note, safety checks are the most important thing you can do with your weapon, bar none. No matter what you do with your weapon, every time you set it down, when you pick it up, you must do a safety check. Okay? It doesn't matter if you're the only one in the building or in the area. It doesn't matter if there's no ammo in the area. It doesn't matter if you set it down for 1 second and pick it right back up without taking your eyes off of it. It doesn't, or if you've left it there for a day and a half or weeks. Every time you pick up a weapon, you must do a safety check to assure that you know, and I stress the word know, the condition of your weapon. Anything beyond that is assuming the condition of your weapon. Okay? You have to know what the condition of your weapon is when you have it, especially a concealed carry. That means in the morning when you wake up, the first time you pick up the weapon, you must do a safety check and visually inspect that there's a round in that chamber, then holster it. And once it's in your holster, it's on your person. Nobody can mess with it without you knowing. That way when you pick it up, you know the condition of the weapon, and you know it's going to go bang when you shoot it. Okay? But if you ever take it all out of your holster and set it down, maybe you use a restroom, put it on the counter, so it doesn't drag the floor or hit the ground or whatever, or you take your pants off to go take a shower, then you come back, when you pick it up, you must do a safety check. That is the most important safety concern about handling a weapon that you can have. Ask any weapons safety course instructor. They will tell you that you must safety check your weapon every time you pick it up. If they're halfway confident, if they don't, then I would seriously consider taking a safety course with somebody else, because they have no idea what they're talking about. You must know the condition of your weapon. Surely you're going to handle the weapon as if it's loaded every time, but you should also know the condition of your weapon. That being said, there are several ways to safety check your weapon, and one of them is absolute garbage to me. That one is going to be using a mechanical device, such as a loaded chamber indicator. This Glock, as most Glocks do, have a loaded chamber indicator right here on the extractor. That little square part in the front is flush with the slide. That tells me that there's no round in the chamber. If a round were to be in the chamber, that would stick out, that would protrude just ever so much. Excuse me. And you could feel that, and that would tell you there's a round in the chamber. My XDS has a loaded chamber indicator on the top that sticks out in much the same way. Those are both mechanical devices. Any kind of loaded chamber indicator is going to be a mechanical device that can fail. And trusting a mechanical device is tantamount to assuming the condition of your weapon. You don't know what the condition of your weapon is. You're just assuming that loaded chamber indicator is working. Maybe something is jammed in there and it's forced, it's stuck out. It feels like there's a round in there, but you don't know if there's one in there or not. Maybe there's something jammed in there. Maybe the loaded chamber indicator has worn, or the lip of the bullet that it rests on has been worn to a point where it's not sticking up as much, and you're assuming that there's nothing in the chamber. Using a chamber indicator is again assuming the condition of the weapon. You must look inside the chamber to see if there's anything in there. So to me, using a mechanical device just is not an acceptable safety check. Even the manufacturers will tell you that. And going back to my XDS, I know I keep harping on that because that one's been giving me the most heartache from XDS users. Everybody keeps telling me to read the XDS manual. They yell at me because I filed off my loaded chamber indicator. I did that because, pulling out my Smith & Wesson Shield here, by filing off the chamber indicator, I created a chamber window. As you can see, that little hole right there, you can see the silver brass in there. That's a positive check. I'm not relying on a mechanical device. I can see the round in the chamber. Excuse me. I know there's a round in there. I know the condition of this weapon, as do you. I don't have to use a loaded chamber indicator. I don't need a mechanical device to tell me what condition this weapon is in. And that makes this weapon more safe than the XDS with a loaded chamber indicator. By filing off my chamber indicator, that created a hole that I could see the brass in, and that gave me a chamber window, much like my Smith & Wesson Shield there. But again, people yell at me because I altered the weapon, I blah 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 blah, whatever. It doesn't really matter. And I can already hear the questions coming, or the comments coming. That's not why my XDS has been in the shop for so long, because I returned it back to stock with the original loaded chamber indicator, the full one that was not filed down, before I sent it back. So the only thing holding up Springfield is Springfield themselves. So anyway, the only safe way, as I showed you with my Smith & Wesson shield, to assess the condition of your weapon is to make a positive visual inspection of the chamber. Okay? One way of doing that is to have a chamber window like my Smith & Wesson shield. Very many weapons have them. I have an LC9 that has a chamber window built in. It's right here in front of the extractor. You can see it without touching anything. You can see inside the chamber. You can see the brass. A second way is to do a full slide rack. That is to move the slide as far back as it will go. Some people even lock the slide like this and look inside the chamber. You can see there's nothing there. And then close the slide. If you don't have a magazine in there and the chamber is empty, then when you close the slide, the gun is safe. If you have a magazine in there that is loaded, when you close the slide, you know that the weapon is live. That's a positive safety check, and that's a good one, unlike using a mechanical device. But I don't like that one because of setback. I prefer a press check. And a press check, essentially, I'm going to do it wrong here the first time just so you can see what a press check is. A press check is essentially pushing the slide back just a little bit so you can see inside. Essentially, you're creating that chamber window between the chamber and the slide so you can see in the chamber. You can see there's nothing in there, and then you let it go. It doesn't take the round out just like it would when you fully rack the slide. It doesn't change the condition of the weapon. It just lets you see what it's in at that moment. And again, I did that wrong. The proper way to do it back in the day was to finger out of the trigger guard, thumb on the bottom of the slide, fingers away from the muzzle, 4 fingers on the top of the slide, and push back just a little bit like that so you can see in the chamber. Today, that's become a little more difficult because that was back when the 1911 was popular and it didn't have a full dust cover. Most handguns today have a full dust cover, so you can't get a full grip on the slide. So the newly accepted way is to 4 fingers on the bottom, thumb on the top, finger out of the trigger guard, fingers away from the muzzle, and to pull back like that. Again, not a full slide rack, but just enough to, see inside the chamber. That lets you get again a positive visual on if there's a round in the chamber or not. And to show you how that works, let's go ahead and load this gun. This is a live round. Putting it in a magazine, put it in the gun. Now, if you were to do a full slide cycle, this is where you would be to load the weapon. You can see there's nothing in the chamber. When you close the slide, you can see that bullet go into the chamber, and you know it's live. But to do a press check, what you would do, and I'm trying to do this without getting in front of the muzzle, you would pull it back just a hair. You can see that bullet right there in the window. It doesn't take it out of the gun. It doesn't eject the round, but it's in there. You know it's in that thing, in that chamber. So every time I put the weapon down, when I pick it up, I do a safety check, and I can tell you, yeah, I see some yellow brass in there. That chamber is loaded. I can do that as many times as I want, and it doesn't change the condition of that bullet. Okay? Now, doing a full slide rack, on the other hand, let's do it this way. Doing a full slide rack, when you pull the slide back, it ejects that round. The round comes out of the gun. And that's my problem with doing a full slide rack check. Yes, you can get a visual inspection. Yes, you can see the bullet go back in there. But because that bullet came out, that means I have to put it back in the magazine and I have to put it back in the chamber. And that creates setback. Excuse me again. And the reason it does that is because of the way that semi-automatic and automatic weapons work. All of the magic happens right here in the chamber of the barrel. This little angled portion right here is called the feed ramp, and it works a lot like a reverse slide that you would find on a playground. The bullet sits in the magazine just underneath the chamber so that the bullet that's in the chamber can go in and out of the chamber freely. So the first bullet in the magazine sits back here. When you eject that round and the slide goes to chamber the next round, the slide the barrel tilts down ever so slightly, and the bullet hits this feed ramp, and it rides the feed ramp like a reverse slide again, and it goes right into the chamber and it locks up. Now, that being said, You engineering and physics types are going to understand exactly where I'm going with this, but I'm going to go ahead and break it down for the people that aren't engineers, that aren't physicists, so they can understand. Yes, that slide is at an angle. That means the force of the bullet's going up at an angle, and the force of friction is going down at an angle, and the force of the slide is going parallel to the ground. But if you take that frictional force and break it into its components, you get one that's perfectly vertical and you get one that is perfectly parallel to the ground, opposing that slide force. And essentially those forces work against each other, and it sandwiches that bullet. Yes, it's for just a brief moment. Yes, it's for an instant, but it's still there, and it's a very strong force as that slide kicks that bullet with everything that the recoil spring has. That being said, if you do it more than once, you're going to start pushing that bullet back ever so slightly over and over and over again. And that's what the setback test was for. Okay? We took a bullet, one of these bullets. This is a brand new bullet. I cycled it that one time to show you. We took a brand new bullet and we cycled it. This is test number 3. We did the test 3 times. We cycled it 100 times. We recorded all of the measurements. We started with 0 cycles, and we recorded every 5 cycles, did a visual inspection every 25 cycles, and at the end, we took the final measurement, 1.016, and we plugged it into a percent change function and got a 9.3% change in overall length. That means that this is bullet number 3, as you can see, that this bullet is 9.3% shorter than its brand new counterpart. And as you can see here, that's very true. Even the casing is shorter, and we'll go over that here in a moment. The casing is a hair shorter, but you can see here, and I'll throw in some high-res photos up here in the corner of the bullets. I've got 3 of them. I did it 3.5 times. Here's number 1. Here's number 2, and here is number 3. And we're going to focus on number 3 because that's the one that I did on video for you. But you know we're going to focus on number 3 again. I'm going to throw pictures of the bullets so you can see the condition of them. You can pause the video. You can look at them as much as you want. That's up to you. But I'll put them up as long as I can. Quickly going over the bullet just to show you the differences. With a brand new bullet, the casing is pretty pristine. It's shiny and clean. The nose, as we went over in the beginning, is flat, so that the edge that it makes between the nose and this sloped area behind the nose is pretty pronounced. There's a nice pronounced edge that goes around. Looking at one that's been cycled 100 times, that edge is gone, and it's created a secondary face all the way around the bullet from where it was riding that slide, that the feed ramp, over and over and over again. The casing is very chewed up. It's very marred. It's pretty messed up, especially in some spots. Like you can see here, it's really chewed up between my fingers here because it was catching the chamber hood and giving me feed issues. It was also giving me extraction issues because the casing, again, started riding the feed ramp because the bullet was pushed so far back it wasn't long enough to reach the feed ramp for a while, and it started deforming the casing, causing it to not be round anymore. If you can see there are points where it's sticking out. There are points where it's pushed in. It's not perfectly round anymore. It wasn't fitting in the chamber anymore. So it was giving me extraction issues. It was giving me feeding issues. It was giving me problems. This right here is 100 cycles. Bullet number 3, 100 cycles. If you cycle your weapon 1 time a day, that means when you wake up in the morning and you pick up your concealed carry weapon, you do a safety check, right? You pick it up, you do a safety check. You do 1 full slide rack, take the round out, put it back into a magazine. Okay, this is empty. Put it back in a magazine and put that round back in the chamber. That's 1. And you do that every day. After 3 months, you're here. You've lost almost 10% of your overall bullet length right here. 90 days, 3 months. And I've had people tell me, well, I use two bullets. I use the one in the chamber and the one in the top of the magazine, and they interchange back and forth. So every other day I'm chambering that round. So your test doesn't apply to me. Well, yeah, it still does. It's the test is still applicable to your situation. It's just what you've done is, instead of having one bullet that looks like this after 90 days, you have two bullets that look like the 50-day mark uh, at 90 days. So you've doubled your bullets that are going to cause you problems. You again, you can watch that video. The graphs that I'm posting, they should show you that around the 50-day mark, that's where the most damage happens. So I mean, do what you want. Um, I wouldn't trust those bullets. I don't trust these bullets. These bullets have been set back so much. The pressure that's inside the casing right here is so much higher than your standard pressure. These have become dangerous to shoot. These will cause what's called a kaboom. That's when you see people that go to the range, they shoot a reload or shoot a bullet that's been loaded incorrectly, and the chamber blows up. The gun breaks in half because everything in this area here literally just explodes because the bullet has too much pressure, and the gun's not made to handle that kind of pressure. It's made to handle this kind of pressure as opposed to this kind of pressure, and people get injured. There's a chance there's a threat to bodily harm and to life itself. I mean, it's a dangerous thing to do. So these three bullets here, I will probably never shoot. They'll probably never ever be fired, just because I don't want to hurt myself and because I'm smarter than that. But some people, they don't go shooting every month. They don't go shooting every 2 months. Some people barely go shooting every 3 months. So this is what they're working with when they chamber that round over and over and over again. They don't notice it because it takes them 3 months to get to this point. But I'm sure if you chamber your round every day and you put it next to a brand new round, there's going to be a difference. There's going to be some kind of difference. It doesn't matter what you say. There's going to be difference because that's just how they're made. The physics is going to work against you, which is again why I like press checks, because I can take that round and I can pull that slide back just enough to see the round, and it doesn't ride that feed ramp. It doesn't get put back into the chamber. It doesn't come out of the chamber and get put back over and over and over again. It stays in the chamber. That way I can check it as many times a day that I want, and I can know every time I pick up my weapon without damaging my bullet. I do that because I usually carry a Winchester PDX-1. When I bought these were $1.50, I think. I go over it in the video. They were somewhere between $1.30 and $1.50 a round. They're hollow points. These are my carry rounds, and I don't want to damage these. I carry these every single day. These, on the other hand, these Full Metal Jackets, they were about 33 cents a round. 32, 33 cents a round. So damaging a couple of these doesn't bother me. Damaging these does, because these are so much more expensive. So I do my best to not cause setback. I don't want to mess these rounds up. So I don't chamber these. I don't rechamber them over and over and over again. I do a press check. And that tells me if my chamber's empty or not. And I can look at it. And I know I've been really dangerous. I've had my hand over the muzzle, but that's because I can't really do a press check without with my hand away from the muzzle. Excuse me, and show you the chamber at the same time. But I can do a press check, create a window, see the bullet, know if it's safe or not, and not damage the bullet. And that's my justification. That's why I do them. Again, I can show you the data here. I've had them flashing throughout the video. I've had graphs flashing through the video. This again was test number 3. I had test number 2 that was very similar. That one had a little more setback, 9.5%. That one started out just a little bit longer at 1.124, and then down here at 100 cycles it went down to 1.017. So it ended at about the same place. The first test, also started at 1.124. It had a 9.4% overall change in length when it went down to 1.018. So, the results were pretty consistent through and through. You can see me do them again for the legitimacy of the tests. Another thing I wanted to highlight was in the first 10 cycles, just over a week, I lost 1/100th of an inch, 0.01 inches in the first week, just over a week and a half, I guess. If you do it only one time a day, that's just once. That's not saying that's not taking into account you use the restroom or you stop and take a shower in the middle of the day and you recheck your weapon. If you do it one time a day, that's where you are. You've lost 1/100th of an inch off your overall length. So, I mean, those were my results. Again, if you wanted to see the test, link in the description, link at the beginning of the video. You can also see my XDS video where I talk about whether press checks were even failing me on the XDS. They were giving me problems. They were damaging the lip of the bullet more than the extractor damage. These lips were pretty chewed up from the extractor, pulling on the bullet every time I ejected the round. Pull on the bullet and the bullet would ride around the extractor as the ejector pushed on it. So the backs are pretty chewed up. The bullet casing is pretty messed up. And again, this is bullet number 3. The casings are pretty messed up. The entire bullet's messed up. And that's just from chambering and rechambering and chambering again. So I avoid doing that as much as humanly possible. I do a press check whenever I need to safety check my weapon. I will press check the weapon, put it in the holster, and I'm good to go for the rest of the day. If for any reason I have to come home and change clothes or whatnot, I'll take the weapon off, put it in the holster. I'll put the holster back on, pick the weapon up, press check it, make sure it's still loaded, put it back in the holster, and I'm good to go. It's not like I take the weapon out and I just press check it over and over and over again just for the sake of looking tactical. I don't do it because I want to play with the weapon. I do it as a safety check, which you must do every time you pick up the weapon. And I do the press check as opposed to a full slide rack because that ejects the round and damages it over time. I don't want to damage my rounds. So I hope I've gotten the point across. I hope I've explained myself appropriately. I know I'm going into 20-something minutes here. That's about half of, the first video. I apologize. It takes so long to explain myself, but I didn't want to miss any important details. Please feel free to comment on how what your thoughts on this process are, especially if you're going to be if you're going to be constructive, if you're going to add to the conversation. If you're just going to be butthurt and he hates XDs and blah, I don't hate XDs. I don't like my XDS because it gives me problems. But if you're going to be butthurt and if you're not going to actually constructively add to the conversation, just go away. But if you do feel like you could add to the conversation, if you have an idea on how to do this better, how to do a better safety check, then great. If you want to come in here and tell me that safety checks aren't necessary, again, go away. And I hope I never meet you because you're dangerous to be around. And it's just that simple. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you found it as educational as I hope it is. And again, this is Stillborn86. Have a good one.